Welcome back, guys. So I've been on a little hiatus for a couple days because I had a cold really bad, and I couldn't for longer than a couple minutes speak. So I didn't want to make a video, of course, for the past couple days. So I'm finally back, and today I want to talk about a movie that I have not talked about on this channel. That is in my top 5 horror movies of all time, and I thought, why the hell not did I review this yet? And I just decided to watch it today, and that is Carrie, the 1976 Carrie, not the remake or not the TV remake. The original, the Sissy Spacek, John Travolta one. This one is in my top 5 horror of all time. I think that this is truly one of the best horror movies ever made because everything that this movie does is so effective. I love how this is one of the most effective horror movies ever. I love how it's also directed by Brian De Palma, who is an incredible director too, and I haven't even seen all of his work, or even half of it, and I want to see more of his movies, but I've of course seen his movies like The Fury, or Carlito's Way, or Scarface, or Mission Impossible. All great movies, but this one is my favorite of his so far that I have seen. And I love the fact that this guy is a masterful filmmaker in all the movies I've seen him do so far, and this one is truly a horror classic, and this deserves to be on all the horror lists, in my opinion. Like, in terms of classic horror, I don't feel like this has anything wrong with it, besides like one little quip or one little thing I have wrong with it that I'll explain later, but it's not like a big deal, it's just like a little dumb moment in the movie. But I love how the movie, like with these characters, this is a character piece for horror. This was made in 1976, where horror movies are not the same as nowadays, if that makes sense in what I just said, in which this takes its time, very carefully takes its time to build on these characters, to build on the relationships, to build on the heartbreaks, to build on the torture that Carrie endures, to create the end of the movie, the prom. And it's done incredibly well. And in this case, it's a horror movie where nothing horror happens really until the last act, where you see little things where like she moves stuff and you have the psycho string music whenever something moves or whenever something breaks. Like she breaks a light whenever she like first gets her period and freaks out. You see her break a light in the woman's bathroom. Or like where she knocks off the cigarette tray with her mind, like whenever she's mad that the principal keeps not saying her name right. And I love how the whole movie before the last act is literally just this build-up of this kind of horrifying drama in a way. It really is horrifying because of how this character Carrie is tortured, abused, made fun of by her mother, by everybody in her school except for a few people. So you feel the world for this character, Carrie White. I love how this is one of the most sympathetic characters in a movie I've ever seen. In any movie, not just a horror movie, in any movie ever. This is one of the most sympathetic characters I've ever seen. Everything they do to build up this character is incredible. And I know this was based on Stephen King's book. And we had 3 iterations of Stephen King's book made into a movie. But this, like, I love the fact that Stephen King, whenever he wrote this book, like, I haven't even read the book, but I know that it is very similar to the TV movie that came out that I saw. So I know a tiny bit, I guess, without reading the book, about how the book works, and it seems like it probably works the exact same way as this one and the other remakes, where you really get enough about this Carrie character where you do feel so much for her, and all the torture and abuse she gets really does build to this incredible conclusion of the movie. Like, the incredible climax of the movie is just her lashing out, her killing everybody. But it works so incredibly well. And it's terrifying, and I love that fact that it's a terrifying movie as well. She is played incredibly well by Sissy Spacek, who is a pretty woman. She is a pretty woman, but like, I love the fact that she looks in this movie like they made her look so, I don't know what they did. I think it was just makeup. They made her look very off-putting, like really an off-putting person. And it's bad that saying based on the looks of the character in the movie, but that's the point of the movie. They're trying to make this character seem so down where like nobody thinks she's pretty, nobody likes her, everybody makes fun of her, and I think that they did an incredible job with a woman who is pretty looking, but like they made her look really off-putting, and it's weird how they did it, but it really is effective. And the first scene is so incredibly effective because it starts out with her getting her first period, and she's like 17 or 18 years old. Because she's a senior at prom, or a senior because it's the senior prom, and she gets her first period, has no idea what it is, thinks she's dying. She goes up to the other girls. All the other girls push her away, throw tampons at her, laugh at her, make fun of her, and she is just breaking down and losing it because she had no idea what a period was because of her crazy psychopathic or psychotic mother. Like her mother is insane, and it really again builds on that too. But the first scene of her doing that, like her breaking down, realizing what this is, thinking she's dying, and then her mother just didn't tell her this, is so effective. And whenever she talks to her later and says, "Why didn't you tell me, Mama?" and like Margaret White beats her down, like it's so incredibly effective. So I love Carrie as a character, and I love how by the end of the movie she gets a little bit of happiness, but in the end she literally does die. But like she gets a little bit of happiness even though she gets so much torture throughout the movie. But you can see I still have a cough a little bit. So I talked about Carrie White, and I want to talk about Sue Snell, Amy Irving's character, who is a great character as well. I love how this character, when she starts out, she is a bully like Chris, who Nancy Allen plays. She is a bully like Chris. She is friends with Chris. Whenever she sees Carrie being bullied, she throws tampons at her too. And then Miss Collins comes in and tells them to stop, and it makes Sue realize that that's a wrong thing to do. Like she's just following Chris being a horrible person, a horrible bully. That she stops standing up to Chris and she sways away from being friends with Chris. And I love the fact that she goes out of her way to get her own boyfriend, Tommy Ross, to go out with her to the prom because she feels so bad for Carrie. She wants her to have some sort of happiness. But Miss Collins kind of looks at her and thinks that she's trying to do something again because she thinks she's still kind of close to Chris. But she's not. And I like the fact that this bully character changes and becomes a good character. And I like how everything she does is trying to have good intentions for Carrie, but it still ends horribly. Despite her goodwill, like it ends horribly with Sue trying to help Carrie out. I just love how she tries to right the wrongs of that, but she really does make it worse, which is a great story thing where like she's trying to do good, but she makes the torture worse, and like how in the end of the movie she still creates the prom massacre, Carrie. So I love Sue Snell, and Amy Irving's great in the role. I really like her as well, and she will do a very similar role in another De Palma movie called The Fury, which is a really cool movie and you should check out. And I'll review eventually on this channel because I do want to review De Palma's films that I have seen and have not seen. But as for now, this is the only one I'm reviewing. But later I'll review The Fury with her in it because she's great in The Fury. And then the other character I want to talk about that's really important is Carrie's mother, Margaret White, played by Piper Laurie. Now, before I talk about this performance and this character, the thing I really love is that, I mean, I guess I'll say I love her performance. Her performance is incredible. Piper Laurie's performance as Margaret White is incredible, but I love the fact that I read online and it said Piper Laurie thought that she was in a comedy with this movie. Like, she was playing a comedic over-the-top mother who was a religious nut. And I love the fact that she thought that, but I love the fact that her performance is not hokey and it's not cheesy. It is legitimately frightening. But she's trying to play it like a comedy, but she is legitimately scary and really effective and really, really off-putting, again, like Carrie is, where this woman who everything is sin to her. You cannot do anything that is not sinful, and she does everything in her way that literally messes up Carrie to a level of almost near insanity. until the end. Carrie does kind of go insane, but the build up to that is incredible because the mother is doing all these horrible, horrific things to her, beating her down, throwing her in a closet, telling her to pray with this creepy Jesus statue that's in there. And whenever she like gets her first period, she knocks her down, starts beating her with a book, tells her to recite these things that she's saying out of the book, and like I said, throws her in the closet and has her pray in there with the door locked. I think that's really incredible. As just a creepy, disturbing character as the mother is, she is scary. And she just doesn't, like Sue, she does incredible damage to her daughter, even though she is just off the rails. She was insane. Margaret White is, but she's trying to help her daughter, but she's just out of her mind, and it is insane at how good this performance is and how well written this character is, and how everybody is. Everybody's incredible in this movie, but still, she is really, really a fantastic villain. Like she is so great. And then I want to talk about Chris. Chris, who's played by Nancy Allen, who you might know from RoboCop. She is awesome in this movie. She is a fantastic villain. She is the only villain that I feel like doesn't get... Like, there's nothing redeeming about her. And I like that. I like that she's just this bitchy bully. Like, she's this horrible person who just is the popular girl. The girl who, like, everybody likes. Of course, Carrie is the one that nobody likes, so she bullies Carrie, pushes her down, with words and throwing tampons at her, starting that thing at the beginning where they're throwing tampons at Carrie when she gets her period. And her performance is just really great. I love the fact that she's just this horrible person, just this horrible bully that you want so bad to die. And they save that for the end, because she doesn't die in the prom, of course. She gets out, her and Billy, but still, it is just fantastic whenever she dies. It's just such a fulfilling thing in this type of movie whenever you see that horrible person make it through till the end and then they die. It's so great. And I also like, even though he's not in the movie as much, John Travolta as Billy, her boyfriend, is really funny too. He's really fun. This is John Travolta's, I think, is this his first role in a movie? Because Saturday Night Fever was after this, and that was his breakthrough movie, and then Grease, but I don't know if he was in anything before Carrie, because Carrie came out in 76, and yeah, and Saturday Night Fever came out in 77, so I think this might be his first big movie. I don't know if it was his first movie, but it really shows, if this is his first movie, if I'm right on this, it shows how awesome of an actor he already is, because he's really, really good in this movie, even though he's barely in it. He's barely in the movie, but he's just a lackey to Chris, and he's great. They're both really great together. They both got this fun bickering back and forth towards each other, and they're really funny, and really just stupid characters who are horrible, and you want them to go really bad, but they're really good in the movie. I like that a lot. And also, speaking of horror alumni, because Norma, the character Norma, who's played by PJ Soles, would 2 years later play Linda in Halloween. I thought that was cool. I saw Halloween first before I saw Carrie, but whenever I watched Carrie, I was like, cool, that's cool to see her in this, and I like how she goes from this to Halloween like 2 years later. Like, that's funny that she goes back into another one, another horror movie that's really big. So I like that a lot too. And there's not much to say about her. She's just kind of another lackey like Billy is like to Chris, but she's totally fine in the role. I like her a lot. but I like her. And Mrs. Collins, who Betty Buckley plays, who is an awesome actress, and she was currently in the movie Split. If anybody saw that, she was the psychiatrist, which is funny because with age, she looks different. Like, not in a bad way, but she looks so different than what she does in this movie. And I just didn't recognize her in Split. And I saw it in her name in the credits. I'm like, hey, that's Betty Buckley in Split. That's funny. But Betty Buckley is one of those actresses where I haven't seen a lot with her in it, but she's great in whatever she's in that I've seen her in so far. In this movie, she is really fantastic as this one of the only characters to give Carrie love and respect, as opposed to everybody else who hates her and makes fun of her and tortures her. Because Carrie in this, nobody likes her except for like Sue eventually starts to be nice to her and help her out. But Mrs. Collins is a character where she goes out of her way to help Carrie to realize that this girl is being tortured by everybody, and knowing that she has a crazy mother. These scenes with her and with Mrs. Collins and Carrie are really good. There's a scene where after Tommy Ross asked her to go to the prom, Carrie tells Mrs. Collins that, and Mrs. Collins like, "That's terrific. What did he say? Like, when are you guys going?" And then Carrie's like, I don't trust him. They're trying to play a trick on me again." And then Mrs. Collins says, like, "I don't think so. Like it seems like this is a real thing. Like, go out and have fun. Like, stop moping around. Like, lift your head up." And like, it's just a really great, likable performance Betty Buckley plays. Like, she's so good in this movie. And whenever she dies, it is really sad, because even the person that is the most sympathetic to Carrie dies in the movie. Even though she doesn't die in the book, but in the movie she dies, and in a brutal way. So even whenever Carrie is in that rage, it doesn't matter who lives or dies. It's even the person that loved her, she's dead too. So Miss Collins had a great death scene, but she was just a great character overall, and it just was so sad whenever she goes, because it's such a tragic thing. The movie is very tragic. It's supposed to be a tragedy. It really is. So I really love her as well. I think she's great. And also the mother of Sue, who is really great too. I'm blanking on her name right now, but she was also in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. She worked at Weston Hills, and she was like the other assistant to Neil. This actress, I'm blanking on her name, but she's a really good actress, and she really... it sucks I'm blanking on her name, but she is such a good actress, and she really is... She brings something to this role that's barely... Like, she's barely in the movie, but she brings such a presence to it, and I love that actress as well, who plays Sue's mother. Now, I want to point out something real quick. There's one negative I have in this movie, and even though this movie is, I think, a masterpiece, there's one moment where I was just like, that's kind of dumb, because you have, like, everybody's getting ready for the prom, and it's the guy's side. It's Tommy and all his friends. They're getting ready for the prom, and they're talking about stuff, like getting dressed, like in a store, getting fitted for their prom outfits, and, like, it suddenly fast forwards, like, the movie literally fast forwards in the movie where it has them talking about in chipmunk voices, and then it goes away really quick. It's only like a minute long, but I'm like, what's the point of that? Like, that's really dumb. It's just weird seeing that in a movie about, like, they literally fast forward their voices in the movie. It was just a strange little thing that is a small nitpick. It's just a very small thing, but I love this movie regardless of that little flaw. That little negative. And then, so that's basically the first hour of the movie, the build-up. The build-up is incredible. I love how nothing really happens that's scary or horrifying, besides the fact that it seems like a terrifying drama, with the mother just beating her down and abusing her. But I love the fact that when it gets to the third act, whenever Carrie's getting ready for the prom, her mother tells her, like, "I can see your dirty pillows. Everyone will." And then Carrie just says, "They're called breasts, Mama. They're called breasts, and every woman has them." And then the mother just starts going crazy, and because of the incredible performance, she just starts, like, grabbing her hair and starts pulling on her own hair and scratching herself and freaking out, and Carrie's like, "Stop hurting yourself, Mama." And then she just goes, the mother just goes, "They're all gonna laugh at you, they're all gonna laugh at you, please. I'll tell them you're sick, I'll tell them you're sick, please." And then, like, Carrie just uses her ability to push the mother down on the bed and says, "Be quiet!" and just sits her there. And then she leaves to go with Tommy to the prom, and the mother just sits there and says, like, I forgot what the exact line is, but she's saying that she's going to kill the witch, which basically was her daughter right now, who's got the abilities. And I love that moment. And I love that moment whenever they're at prom, and then it cuts home to the mother, and the mother's chopping carrots, and it's an up view of the camera where she's just chopping carrots. She's just chopping it really hard in a rhythmically creepy way. And then the carrots chopped all the way, and then she just keeps knocking down the knife in the spot on the cutting board where she's at, and it's creepy. It's really disturbing, and it really works, because you can see while they're at prom, she's getting even more insane, and it leads to the build-up after the prom. But let's talk about the prom. the prom scene where we get there, and again, it takes a while for the carnage to happen. It's about these characters right before they die. They've got moments of humanity with them, where Carrie again goes up to Mrs. Collins and Tommy, and like Tommy goes away for a minute, and Miss Collins and Carrie talk, and Miss Collins just tells her a little story about how like she went to the prom with like a guy who was like 7 feet tall, and like just explaining how their car broke down and they had to walk a mile there, and she couldn't even dance because her feet were so blistered. Like little, like it's just a little story, but I thought that with the performances, with Miss Collins just telling Carrie this story, it's just a really sweet, endearing thing. Like she really does care about Carrie, and she cares about what she's like. She wants her to be happy. She wants her to actually do something, like not be in the shadows, not be alone, and have people make fun of her. So I love that moment. And I love that dance between her and Tommy where the camera goes back and forth and back and forth, and it gets you kind of dizzy, but it's so good because they're both dancing, and that romantic song playing is really good because it actually really works in terms of like, this is the last happy moment she's gonna have, or one of the most happy moments she's gonna have right before the carnage happens. So it's just a tragic song to play during that moment. And I like that moment where they're talking too with the music, where she's saying like, why did you take me? Like, why would you ever take me? And he says like, because I wanted to. And she just says, why? And he says, and he like explains that like he likes her. And at first I was thinking that Sue just pushed him to do this, but maybe Tommy is actually starting to like her. You don't really get that full implication, but I like that. I love that moment where they're dancing. That's just a great final tragic ironic moment that's going to happen after this, where it becomes deadly and everybody dies. But that moment is just so fulfilling, and just how she's getting a little bit of happiness before the carnage and her insanity goes away happens. So I love that. And again, the build-up is fantastic too in the prom after that, because Sue comes in, she's worried, she didn't go to prom. She comes in and she finds Billy and Chris underneath the stage, and they're literally rigged it to where a bucket of blood's going to fall down on Carrie whenever she goes up there. And I love the fact that with the fast-paced music and with how happy it is, and then it gets really creepy, like, and suspenseful, where Carrie and Tommy have won and are up on the top of the stage. Everybody's cheering for him. Sue sees that the bucket's up there. She tries to go down. Miss Collins sees her, thinks that she's gonna mess with Carrie, so Miss Collins throws her out, while then Chris dumps the bucket. And that score is just incredible right there, where it's so suspenseful. It's about to happen. It's about to break. They're gonna drop the blood on her, and then they do. And then the bucket falls down, and I guess kills Tommy or knocks him out. Either way, he dies because he's trapped in that building that burns down. But like, it doesn't. Either he dies or he gets into like he gets a big head injury where he gets knocked out. But like, the bucket falls down at him, and then Carrie's just sitting there, and then Norma and the crowd just starts inciting laughter. So then most people start laughing, and I love that incredible moment where like Carrie, it shows her all covered in blood with her hands like this, and just sitting there, and then it plays the sound of the mother saying, "They're all gonna laugh at you. They're all gonna laugh at you," and then like it cuts to Carrie imagining most of the people are laughing out there, and a lot of people are laughing out in the crowd, but like everything that built up to that, it cuts to like her looking at the principal saying, "I'm so sorry, Cassie," or like all the other people who made fun of her. And then Miss Collins, who says, "You can trust me, Carrie," and it shows her laughing. And I don't think she was laughing, really. I think that Carrie just lost her insanity, so like she thinks she's laughing. But the most of the crowd was laughing, but I don't think Miss Collins was. But that's just so incredible, such a moment where like it's just saying in the background, "They're all gonna laugh at you," and then while they're all literally doing it, and like everything that is built up to that is just such a great build-up. And I don't know, like whenever she starts to do it, like Billy and Chris get out, Sue's out, all the doors, she locks all the doors with her mind, she slams them all shut, she starts the carnage, and I love the fact that this scene is haunting because Sissy Spacek, covered in blood, she looks insanely creepy and scary. She is legitimately frightening, and like how the camera, I mean, how the lighting and the cinematography work too in that moment, where like it turns red and it just shows her with like big eyes, just staring at everything. She can move anything with her mind. She just stares at something. Just hose comes up, sprays people, like everything lights on fire. People get shocked. That is incredible, and just the use of the colors in that scene where it's red and then it turns blue and then the electrical charge creates fire and it becomes all fire is great. And that scene, like I said, with Miss Collins, where the part of the roof falls down and like impales her, and she just screams Carrie, and then like she gets impaled. And then I love the fact that this is what Brian De Palma does in a lot of his movies, where it's a split diopter. Is that what it's called? No, that's like if it's out of focus, like the split image, where like it shows one image on this side, one image on this side. It's showing it where Mrs. Collins gets impaled, and then it shows on the other side Chris and Billy looking out the window, seeing this happen while they're outside and run away, and they're scared. And I love that moment because that's just a cool effect, like using two different split screens happening at once. I think that's really cool. So I love that, and I love how whenever Carrie walks out of that burning building, you just hear people screaming, and it just shuts, and then she leaves, and then that's it. It just burns down. Everybody's dead. That is terrifying. And you don't even see it. You just see, like, that building burning down as she walks out, and you just hear the screams. That's scarier than seeing it happen. And then she starts walking home, and then you see Chris and Billy. They're gonna ram her. And she just looks at him, and I love that zoom in on her eyes, like, and like it just shows her eye, and then like it like makes them swerve out, and then they start flipping their car, and then it lands on its side, and Carrie just looks at her and just blows up. I think that's incredible. Just an incredible kill, such a rewarding kill for that horrible character. Like, you felt no sympathy for Chris at all. Like, she literally, the whole movie is this horrible person. And whenever she gets killed, it feels kind of satisfactory, because or satisfying, because she finally dies. And then I love how whenever Carrie goes home, she goes and takes a bath. She's out of her warped state. And there's this creepy moment where she's walking up the stairs into the bathroom, and behind the door, literally the mother is just sitting there with her eyes wide open, not moving, not blinking, just standing there. Nothing, and the light turns on and you just see her there with her eyes just staring into nothing, like she has lost it. And I love that incredible, so subtle moment. That's so good. And then we get the inevitable conclusion between Carrie and her mother. Carrie's mother tells her like how she should have given Carrie to God when she was born, like she should have killed her baby because she gave in and had pleasures with her husband. And that's just such a great moment, and she's like, we'll pray, and they hug each other, and Carrie's crying like, okay. They just are praying, but then the mother comes up with a knife and stabs Carrie in the back and falls down the stairs, and there's that fantastic chase where she's just slowly walking down the stairs while Carrie has been stabbed in the back, been injured, and the mother is just walking down with a creepy smile, like, just backing the knife back and forth. It is really, that performance is incredible with Piper Laurie. Like, it is truly scary. And she's walking down, and then she almost stabs Carrie, but then Carrie uses all these knives or weapons that impales the mother onto the door hinge and, like, makes it look like she's a crucified Jesus. And, like, the mother kind of enjoys it. She sounds like she's pleasured whenever she's killed. And then she just sits there and zooms out, and it looks like the Jesus that they have in the closet that she was praying next to earlier. And that's just a great moment. And you don't see rocks in this movie, but in the book, Carrie, like, drops rocks down to, like, destroy the house. But, like, the house starts imploding in this version. And I like that she uses her abilities just to destroy, like, she's dying, her mother's dead, she takes her mother into that closet, goes in there, and the house starts breaking in and imploding in, and then all those candles, those millions of candles, start lighting the house on fire, and then the house starts going into the ground. And it's just such a great way to end like Carrie can't survive after this. What can she do after this? What she had did? What can she do after this tragedy? She's lost everything, so she just kills herself in the process on purpose to rid herself of this power. Everything that she's had is gone. So what else can she do? She just kills herself, and it's really sad and really horrific because of how much sympathy you feel for Carrie, and then how much sympathy you feel for Sue whenever the movie ends with Sue Snell waking or sleeping, and then the mother like answers the phone and talks to this girl she was talking earlier to in the movie on the phone, and she says, "Oh, Betty, it's you. I'm glad it wasn't another reporter." And then she mentions, like, she's talking about Sue, and she's like, she's doing well. Yeah, I wouldn't take her to the funerals because she was already so affected, and the psychiatrist said that she's going to be sleeping for a long time. That's what is going to happen whenever something tragic like this happens. And while she's talking on the phone to this woman, it shows Sue in a dreamlike state where she walks up to Carrie White's house that is gone, buried underground, and there's a sign that says for sale, and on it says Carrie White burns in hell. And this music is so haunting and beautiful that, like, she walks up, she puts flowers right down in the grave, but then right whenever she does, Carrie's arm grabs her, and the music score is incredible and scary in that moment, but like she grabs it while Sue is screaming, and then Sue wakes up while the mother is holding her arm, but she keeps thinking it's Carrie's arm, like she looks down and is screaming at it, like, no, no. And then, like, it ends with the mother grabbing Sue, holding her, saying, it's alright, and Sue's just shaking like she is going insane, and it ends with Sue just going literally insane. And that's a perfect ending for this. Like, I love how it ended that way. I loved how Carrie killed herself because she literally couldn't control this ability, and everybody died because of her. She lost everything, and then Sue is the only surviving person, the only surviving kid who goes insane. Like, I love how it ends that way. That's such a horrifying way to end the movie. It's just a fantastic movie. Like, this, everything about this movie is incredible. Even the stuff, like, I haven't read the book, but even the stuff that I hear is more sillier in the book is not as in this movie, like the falling rocks, or like that thing isn't in the movie, and there's a couple other things I can't remember that that I've heard be mentioned in the book that are not in the movie, in this version. In the other remakes they do that, or they add like the rocks, or like they add like other stuff that I can't remember at the moment, but I truly love this first movie. This is an incredible horror movie, one of my favorites, top 5 easily. All the performances are incredible. Carrie is one of the most sympathetic characters I've ever seen in any horror movie. I feel like the build up to this, the first hour, is incredible because nothing even happens with like horrifying things except for it being like a tragic drama, like with the mother beating her down. But it builds up to this inevitable conclusion and this horrible tragedy that everybody suffers from, and it's just incredible with everything, with De Palma directing it, with the score, with the visuals, with the performances, with the cinematography, with everything. Like, this is just a truly effective, incredible horror movie that is one of my absolute favorites. So I love the original Carrie, and I will eventually talk about the Rage Carrie 2 and the remake, TV remake, and the movie remake with Chloe Grace Moretz. But I'll eventually watch those. I don't know if I'll watch them like soon, but I'll watch them on this channel eventually. But as of now, I had to talk about the one I love, the movie that I love, because the sequel I don't like, and the remakes I didn't really like much either. But this first movie is incredible, so I had to talk about this one, and I'm so mad that I didn't talk about it earlier on this channel, because this is one of my absolute favorite horror movies ever. So tell me down below what you guys think of the original Carrie, and thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for watching, and see you guys later.